This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
We all remember that one teacher who made a difference, believed in us, challenged us, or just made learning fun. Well, now's your chance to say thank you in a big way with iHeartRadio's Thank a Teacher, powered by Donors Choose. Nominate an outstanding public school teacher who's gone above and beyond for their students to win $5,000 to stock their classroom with whatever they need. Help us say thank you to the educators shaping our future. Nominate your favorite teacher now, iHeartRadio.com/teacher.
Tight ends to the left of Christian Darrisaw. It is second and a goal from the one. Direct snap to Jordan Mason. He sprints out to the left. He reaches for the end zone, and they say he was short. Jordan Mason on a direct snap. Think the same play they ran to Cam Akers in the Browns game.
After replay assistance, ruling on the field is a touchdown.
Yay! Post time for X's and O's on the vast and ever-expanding KFAN Minnesota Vikings audio network. And welcome back. I'm Paul Allen. Happy to be joined by one of our favorite people here, Quincy. How you been? Kwesi. I'm sorry, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, general manager for the Minnesota Vikings. But we're on a level just to take you behind the scenes here at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, where two studios to the left of us, two studios to what would be the southwest of us directionally, is where those of you who watched Undercover on Amazon Prime, put together by Eli Manning, well, that's where back in training camp, Justin Jefferson donned a costume, called himself Darius Frost. And one of my favorite moments, because it went nuts on social media last week. So then I go to Prime, and I'm like, cool, I have Prime, so I guess I've been paying for that. That's cool. All right, well, I might as well watch it then. And I watched the first Undercover with Baker Mayfield, acting like he was Joe Q's super fan with the mullet and just everything. And then they start throwing passes. People are like, hey. And the rookie receiver, they had three of their players there. And so the rookie receiver's looking at fellow rookies going, who is this? I mean, this guy has an arm. Then he takes the whole thing off, and the ruse was done, and it was beautiful. Episode number 2, Justin Jefferson as photographer Darius Frost. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah comes in August or whatever it was for some, quote, staff photos, end quote. And the ruse and the spoofing was terrific. A lot of great laughs to be had there, especially from you at the end when you figured it out. But I just, there were a lot of great moments there. I still think my favorite is when he called you Quincy.
Well, hey,
Quincy.
A lifetime of having a West African name that I love and dear to my heart, but it's been mispronounced every which way possible. So
really,
there's
it's Kwesi.
Oh man, the first day of school used to be this anxiety-inducing 5 minutes. Just as I knew now I have an A last name, so I was normally quick, but I'd be sweating, waiting for the teacher to butcher my name in front of everybody. So those reactions, there's like this little 6-year-old that shows up in those moments, and I just very quickly, hey, it's Kwesi, and move on. But no, Justin, that was an incredible performance. I'm too close to Sam Newton right now. I don't know that I trust him anymore. For people out there, I don't normally get a headshot. I don't care what my picture looks like, I guess, but I asked for one this year, and I canceled the night before. I was like, I don't really want to be memorialized with this mustache. And Sam was like, you gotta do it. You gotta do it.
What do you mean this mustache? You've always had a mustache since I met you.
But just the soul.
It was thick. It was thick.
And so they kind of talked me into going, and they walked me off the plank there. So now we've got some trust to build back in our relationship.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Well, that's so fantastic, Quincy. It's Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. It's a squared away, culture-based building that happens to house a football team that plays games. And here's what I'm getting at. You don't think for a second before this whole thing was pulled off that Newton, Anderson, and that entire staff had 5 meetings as to how to handle Kwesi if he gets moody with it or whatever, because he feels like somebody was deceiving him?
That was so well done. Obviously you got to be every once in a while the dial comes to you and the laughs are maybe at you and sort of with you. But no, it was a fun experience. I'm glad Justin got to do it. I wish it wasn't the number one prime show so that everybody could see me in my weak moment. But no, cool that we were able to do stuff like that at this facility.
Yeah, but you've always been very comfortable with radio and television and print attention. So therefore, when something comes up on social media that undercovers the number one thing for the week, yeah, I'm sure you're really going to put your thumbs underneath your armpits and flutter your fingers and go, hey.
Oh, yeah.
That's not exactly our general manager, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. Off your name quickly, though. I've heard a lot of Kwesis. I've heard a lot of Kwesis in Minnesota. So therefore, like for me, I told you it's a beautiful name. So like, if it's on the radio or whatever, I'll be like, Kwesi.
It's, it's sometimes spelled with an A, in Ghanaian culture.
Really?
So the E, I could see that throwing people off a little bit.
Okay, well, is Kwesi, and there's a reason for me asking this, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah.
Yeah.
Is that the only part of the name? And here's why I ask, because I was watching a YouTube short yesterday, like while I was writing, and there was an interview with Dikembe Mutombo. and the host was like, well, that's your Americanized name. Right. It took Dikembe Mutombo 3 minutes to say his name. I mean, that thing had 19 vowels in it before he got to the first consonant.
Yep.
Or vice versa.
There is a part to my first name that I'll leave out just because pretty much only my family calls me that. I don't know that I want to be walking the streets of Minnesota and have somebody, they'll be like, it's a reaction where I only know that somebody in my family is saying something to me. So. Yeah.
With Justin's giggle, okay? See, you have one too. So like if somebody said, Paul, close your eyes, and then you're going to hear these laughs, I'd be like, all right, well, that's Justin 100%. It comes from the chest. With Kwesi, it has a little high pitched thing to it that we can talk about later. I don't know if I've heard Kevin laugh in the last 5 months, but we can work on that against the Chargers. And, but I'm surprised you didn't get Justin's laugh during this ruse.
A lot of surprises, man. In hindsight, there was so many things that I should have seen. I should have known what was coming. Also, just how weird everybody was acting around. I'm looking at the photographer, but Sam and Jeff are pacing behind.
I know.
Andy looks like he wants to crawl out of his skin.
You're surprised? Well, you would do the same thing if you thought you potentially were losing your job over a ruse.
And because I kept looking at him, I'm like, they told me he was his intern. And, I'm like, okay, you hired him. Like, cool. Yeah. And I kept looking at him like, okay, this is your intern, but, no, it was, I probably should have got it there. I should have got it when he pointed the teeth, when he said, I don't know anything about football. And then he's naming his contract. Lots of places.
Hit it perfectly, 140.
And, as my wife would probably tell you, Kwesi is not fully in the room at all times when I show up. Just the God's honest truth.
Well, that's a different conversation for a different day. We need another 30 minutes for that.
Oh man, we all do, and so sometimes you need to, obviously with her, I buck up and get my attention going. But sometimes in the building, when you're thinking about the 6 things that happened in your day before, 6 things coming after, a little distracted. So I think my detector was a little off there.
Yeah, 2 of us in here, along with you, are dads. So Nordo has 3 young daughters, 9 or 10 for the oldest too. Yeah, 10-year-old twins, and then basically one that's coming up on a year. I have a 25-year-old son and a 22-year-old daughter. The daughter is based in Denver, Colorado after graduating from the University of Colorado. So you're like, yay, we got that degree. Here we go. New job, big girl job. Yeah, until you move from Boulder to Denver and have to find new friends. That's a lot of fun, right?
Oh, man.
It's just big people, big problems, little people, little problems.
Amen.
When you put that whole thing in perspective,
Amen.
okay? Amen. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, general manager for the Minnesota Vikings. Okay, ready? Ready, Sam? Here we go. Football questions. NFL trade deadline's 2 weeks from today. Do people still call people on, like, office phones? I mean, do you have to look at your phone to illuminate, or do you actually, hey, somebody's calling that phone?
My office line has probably rung 7 times since I've been here, and they've all been somebody from the outside who got the number and wants to yell something that myself or somebody else is doing at the Vikings. On draft day, we do have those landlines, and those will get used on draft day. But other than that, I'm not sure I've taken a call on those landlines.
Have you ever investigated or just let yourself think about what your job must have been like before cell phones and or the internet? like Sid Hartman, God rest his soul. He would tell a story about, back when the Vikings first started, like 61 or something like that, or it's the 60s or the 70s. And, Tex Schramm for the Dallas Cowboys told this story also, where when it was draft season or free agency, or like they're trying to trade or something, that literally a football-related epiphany would hit them. They'd have to pull off the side of the road, find a payphone, make sure they have enough quarters to go into the payphone to call the other general manager in Los Angeles,
It's unbelievable. It's funny. We were in London. I was walking the streets with my family, and I walked by a payphone. I mean, when's the last time you saw a payphone? I used to live in New York City, and I remember days where I was, trying to go around, and I had to find a payphone and find a quarter. Those are things that people, kids nowadays probably know nothing about. But, we talk about a lot, just the world and all the information we have at our fingertips. But I almost wonder if you had the Nokia and the iPod Classic that didn't do anything else, would we all be in a better place? I sometimes ask myself the question, do we have too much in the palm of our hands? But, there's probably pros and cons to it. Having information that quickly obviously is helpful, but also maybe that's not helpful to maybe have everything at your fingertip. It's you adjust to the times, but it's a great dynamic we have now.
That whole mental juxtaposition you just went through was fascinating. Well, you talked out both sides of the equation, and the bet's settled. We move on. That was brilliant.
I'm learning from Kev. The ocular processor.
That was beautiful. Do you consider yourself, with trading deadline 2 weeks from today, just at your human nature, more of a buyer or a seller by nature? I mean, do you you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's more of a value proposition. You're always looking for opportunities. Where do opportunities align? When you're obviously everything's about winning in the current season, but also you don't want to be so focused on the current season that you potentially hinder yourself in future seasons. So it's always that dynamic of time value of performance, time value of assets. So buyer, in a sense, you're feeling like, hey, this is our year, but in a sport with an oblong ball and injuries and all these different things, it's hard to ever really be so binarily in that sense.
Right.
And then potentially lose assets next year that are going to help you improve. So it's really just that conversation, and you're looking through. We have a trade meeting right after this amazing time I get to spend with you guys. But
thank you.
It's willing through the hundreds of opportunities and then seeing, hey, which 3 or 4 align with our goals that are trying to get better this year, keep our flexibility for next year, all those different things. And it really only comes down to 3 or 4 opportunities. You call on those, you rely on the relationships you have, and maybe it ends up being one deal that we typically made at the deadline.
How close do you permit yourself to get to the players you draft and or bring in via free agency?
It's really, really hard. When I was deciding on, I was in Cleveland not deciding, but just really asking questions about becoming a GM. That was the one thing I asked Sheldon Day. I've known since I was in San Francisco, and I was like, how do I had a great, because back then when you're not in the chair, you always can be the good uncle almost in a sense, right? And people would come to my office, and I was kind of just like, how do I do that job but still have these real relationships, because it will at some point feel transactional if at the end of the day I have to be the person to be the bearer of bad news. And he said, just be honest with people, be straight up, be yourself, be you've always been. I think people can tell that you're genuine. So I try and do that in a way that people know that it's real, that I do care about them. I might have to at some point make a decision that you might not like, but I have to do that for the Vikings, but also know that I would drop everything to help you, because I really do mean, and I believe relationships are like that. So that's how you try and treat it. I also don't need to be these guys' friend. I don't know that they need a 44-year-old, friend, who I don't know if I'm the hippest guy, in the industry anymore. I do okay for a GM, but
you just talked out both sides of the equation again in 8 seconds. That's so brilliant. What's a gift?
But I love the time. It's so cool to be around these guys, and they're younger than me, so they use lingo, and it almost keeps me young. It'll help me when my kids get a little older, so I'll know what pause means or whatever the kids are saying nowadays. But
pause.
Pause.
PAWS.
Right? They say pause. That's the thing, right?
I thought it was some 6-7 thing bouncing around.
I've seen that. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is.
Right.
If people knew how little connection I have to social media, they'd be stunned.
I'm still stuck on fax. I'll just stop there right there.
And a little fax machine you'll put in your text message machine.
Yeah, FACTS.
Yeah, that's.
Well, how about that? Well, I mean, if you wanted to make a trade or sign somebody 25 years ago, you had to use a fax machine.
I was talking to Trish about this the other day. I remember a typewriter. I learned on a typewriter. I had a typewriter, and when you messed up, you had to retype that,
Yes.
or maybe white it out and write over it. I mean, just, hey, that's what we were grinding. That was the original School of Hard Knocks on that typewriter.
A few here for Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah to close, the general manager for the Minnesota Vikings. Does losing feel worse than winning feels good? Go ahead and talk that one out from both sides.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm normally I'm a pretty even person. That Sunday was hard. That was a frustrating game. I think football is typically fair Kev always gets mad at me when I say that because he's out there dying on the sideline. What do you mean it's fair?
Yeah.
But you come up, you watch the film, and when you win, you're typically like, yeah, we won, but there's a couple plays where, that game could have been different. Or if you lose, same thing. Rarely do you watch the game and, when you leave the stadium, you feel like we should have won that game. And then when you watch the film, you feel like we should have won that game. You look at the first downs, the out third downs, time of possession, all the things that matter. And it really comes down to 3 or 4 plays that even if they had big plays, they just weren't as big of plays. We still come out there with the win. And I think, but otherwise, those times can be frustrating. But otherwise, I treat everything like a learning experience. So I don't really get high or low, happy, sad. It's more about I just got to watch something. We projected what this team could be like. I'm so excited to go wake up in the morning and go learn and study it and see what happens. There's a joy in that process of learning what we are.
Then you actually wake up after a game like that. So, I mean, is human nature gets to win too,
It's amazing. You wake up with a sense of, because we get to do something about it. I text our group about that at night. I try and text them after every game. And I said I was frustrated, but I also said that the good thing about our job is we get to go tomorrow and try and make it better and make it right. Same with everybody in this building, every player, every coach, every front office, every person who walks these halls. And that's what makes this sport so great, being a part of it. So the joy, the highs and lows really for me only come late, playoffs, different things like that when there's a finality. Yeah. When that locker room scene in Glendale where you're seeing guys, that's where you'll see me. That's probably the only time you really feel me emote. Cause also I think it's my job to be kind of the emotional balance of the organization. In a sense, my job is to be long-term focused, more, context, different things like that. Never ride the waves with everybody else, knowing that they should happen, but it's my job to kind of to be at the other side.
And but yeah, I mean, there are look in the mirror moments too, right? Because say somebody thinks, hey, this squad's vulnerable. Look at all these games they've missed from these key people. Yeah. Now we can strike, and that's not a bad way to handle the job. I understand that business part of it. But you also have to be like, if you're really frustrated with somebody and you have been week after week and, hey, just had a big game or had another bad game, but you know what's going on behind the scenes and you're like, I ain't giving up on this. Right. Well, then all of a sudden the 7th is the 6th and the 6th is, we might be able to talk about the 5th later today. Right. You got to battle all that, right?
All of it. And, is that person who had a good game, well, what was your prior belief about him? Or was that bad game? Some players, it happens. Great players have bad games. So is that a bad game from a great player or a bad player from somebody who needs to keep improving? It's all, again, that's why one of the things I just love so much about this job, the curiosity that I have that I get to display here.
Darius Frost, Sam Newton with media relations permitted me to go to 17, because I know you have that trading meeting coming up. So we'll just end it like this. What music are you vibing these days? And I have a reason for asking that question. Something that took place on my radio show yesterday.
Right now, I am listening to this Southern hip hop kind of classics list. Sometimes when people come in my office for meetings, I'll ask them, "Hey, what do you want to hear?" And Jasper Brinkley, probably a month ago, was like, "Let's throw some of that Southern hip hop on." I was like, "Oh!" Wow. I just kind of typed it in, and the first song is this Trick Daddy song that I love. And I know we vibe on music all the time. One of the things I love about music is the first time you hear the beat, your memory goes somewhere like special to you. And so this Trick Daddy song comes on, and I immediately go to my sophomore year of college with some of my fraternity brothers sitting in a room, like the first time I heard that song. And so the list started that way and it just kind of continued on. So I've been listening to that for the past month. That's how I get really connected to a list. But some great.
Sounds easy. Yeah. Listening to Trick Daddy while you do level 9 calculus. It sounds like it all just fits together.
I changed the techno for the calculus.
Well, what happened yesterday with PJ Fleck, coach of the Golden Gophers football team, who joins every single Monday, is at the end he talked about, and we teach music. He was talking about the culture and what they do weekly and how they change things up. And we like teach music. Well, that ears immediately perked, and he puts the word "how" into the band. So I don't know, old school duo Daryl Hall and John Oates, Hall and Oates, How and Oates, or we're going to play some Halvin Gaye today and learn about Marvin Gaye. So I'm like, well, what about Parliament Howardelic and George Clinton and Bootsy Collins on bass, Atomic Dog and Flashlight and so many different songs and so therefore that I think that's cool what they do to kind of break it up like that, but it also helps the new age or those who are younger learn about the roots of Trick Daddy, the roots of what people listen to now, you know?
That doesn't surprise me. PJ is one of the more unique people I've ever met, creative, passionate. Watched that game on TV, really proud of those guys. So that doesn't surprise me at all. But no, music's this beautiful thing. You know, I know last night Jackson Smith-Njigba had a great day. I love telling the story, but I'll run into him every now and again. He will remember the top 30 meeting where I asked him, what song would you play if you had something to say about it? Like, he will remember and we'll talk about it. And that's like a cool thing that you can connect with people. We're not from the same place. We don't, you know, he didn't have a typewriter in 7th grade. But, you know, we can connect on those things and kind of have those experiences, which is awesome.
All right. That's going to be it. Thank you very much for joining. Greatly appreciate you. And, if we don't chat on the sideline at SoFi, it's because I envision there could be a moment with the you and Chargers GM Joe. Is it Ortiz? Yeah, Joe Ortiz. He's lost his top 2 running backs and left tackle Rashawn Slater for the season. You've gone through a million games of injuries this season, so maybe you guys just lament a little bit into the game before you compete against each other. You know?
No, Joe's super talented. I've known of him for a long period of time, but as GMs, you don't really lament on those things. It's just, hey, that's the job, and you kind of take the challenge of it. And he's wired that way. And they got a great roster. It'll be a competitive game. I'm excited for it. Two teams that need a win like we always do. So I'm fired up for it.
I appreciate you.
Of course.
Thank you. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, X's and O's, courtesy of 9 to noon on KFAN.
Before we go, the cash thing, the Fan and 2 Minute Junk Truck want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks for the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com. The keyword is bank. Keyword bank. KFAN.com. Keyword bank. It's a pregame feast this week. You can join Muss at Buffalo Wild Wings Savage this Thursday night as he broadcasts the pregame show live. Drop by from 5 to 7 p.m. as we lead you up to the boom between the Vikings and the Chargers with great food, tons of football, and your chance to win awesome prizes. Full details now, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Goessling covers the Minnesota Vikings for the Star Tribune and StarTribune.com. Joins 9 to noon, a segment later than usual, as we go here at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. But things change on what we call in the business a short week, where Sundays become Thursdays and Saturdays, with elevations from practice squads become Wednesdays and things like that. Kevin O'Connell, I believe, has a press conference later today, which he generally wouldn't have on Tuesday. He would do X's and O's here at KFAN. And somebody who is in tune with all of that joins us now, courtesy of Standard Heating and Air, standardheating.com. Thank you very much. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. The short week is it's a grind, but you know, you just kind of ride with the chaos and try to be where your feet are, as they say.
Yes. We every Tuesday, coming off the NFL completed week, we will do something called hyperbolic or hyperaccurate.
Yeah.
Mixed in a little NBA today with OKC and stuff while we were waiting for Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. So for both of you, I'll lay this out, and Ben, you go first. Is this hyperbolic or hyperaccurate? Carson Wentz is so banged up, Max Brosmer should play at the LA Chargers.
I think that's hyperbolic. We will see a little more today what he has to say, what Kevin O'Connell has to say, but no, I don't think he's so banged up. I mean, he said after the game, I'll be all right. I'll get through the recovery process. And he said, I don't like Thursday games. I don't know that there's a player who does, because you hear so many of them talk about these games are like getting in a car crash every week. So you have to be ready again to do it earlier than you normally would. I know a lot of players will say Thursday is about when you start to feel normal again. So there is certainly a heightened challenge of trying to do this on a short week. And when you are dealing with injuries, that makes it more difficult. But I don't think it's so bad. And he didn't react in a way on Sunday that made me think, hey, they might need to make a change for health reasons here So, no, I think that's hyperbolic.
And I know the shoulder situation was his non-throwing shoulder.
Yes.
And I'm not going to pretend and lie to the audience and act like I've watched every Carson Wentz throw during the course of his career. It's the reason I brought it up the way I did is in watching back the game, and all of the games, specifically offensively, is he's throwing. His throwing mode, it's side. He's doing a lot of sidearm stuff when he doesn't really have to.
Right.
And like there's an Addison play where he got behind a corner, a safety was running in, the one by the boundary where he fell.
Yeah.
And he brought it in for the long gain.
Yeah, the one that if he leads him is probably a touchdown.
Probably. I think safety guy might have had something to say about that, but it could have been a longer gain.
Right.
Well, there's that example. Some of the other examples would be just the looping nature of some of these passes. Mm-hmm. And maybe after, with all due respect, we're both quite fond of Carson. It's after Cousins and then Darnold and now, we're just, and why even watching Sam last night?
Yeah.
I mean, you're just used to seeing that thing just zip in there every single play and there's somebody running after the catch.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if he's battling some things that's costing him some velocity on his passes.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, that shoulder injury could be affecting the follow through, and that may be kind of what comes into the velocity too. So, I mean, yes, it's not his throwing shoulder, but everything is, especially when you talk about the way quarterbacks are taught to throw in this day and age with rotational mechanics, it is your whole trunk, it's your whole body. So it's going to have an effect, I think. And it's part of the reason that in London he had to go get a harness put on his shoulder. I believe he played with that again last week. So you're working through those things, and that does have an effect, I think. But it's one of those things where you try to just get through it and make the best of it.
Well, I hate to say it this way. For his sake, I kind of hope that he's battling through an injury because with everything, and it's not it's not that he's ever been the most accurate quarterback in NFL history. However, his arm has never been questioned in terms of his ability to get it to where it needs to be at a high level of speed. And it is the looping. His second interception, for instance, and I know he's running, he's off platform, all of that, but the amount of air he puts under the ball is effectively what allows Makuba the ability, or Makuda, I think, the ability to go back and secure that ball. And so, I don't want him to be hurt, but then at least I would know if he's that banged up, that would provide some explanations for what was an incredible regression from an accuracy and overall, just an overall quality of play standpoint.
Yeah, and I think there probably has to be, I think one is probably linked to the other there. I wouldn't expect it's just all of a sudden, there's this sudden regression in this guy that we thought was playing at least efficiently the way he played in London, certainly, at the end of the game was better than efficient, to all of a sudden then go out and be that off. I mean, I even think of the one, there's the backwards pass. There's the one that Addison kind of leaks out on the back.
Yeah.
That Addison's probably open for a big gain. He misses behind him.
Yeah, the opening drive before the bad snap.
Yeah.
Addison has a first down, potentially another touchdown opportunity there if he hits him. Yeah.
Yes. So there were enough of those things that you kind of say, okay, there has to be more to this story than just, all of a sudden he's not good. I mean, it's not typically that. It's not that somebody that's been doing this for as long as they have all of a sudden is inefficient at it. There's usually more to it. So, then the question becomes, how do you manage it? The question is, does it cause enough regression that you say we need to go with somebody else here? But in a short week with J.J. McCarthy still recovering, that ankle he said last week's not 100%, and Max Brosmer has not started an NFL game. Are you going to do that in a short week? It's not an ideal scenario, but the Thursday games rarely are.
When you watch the portion of practice with all the players out there, including J.J. McCarthy, do you ever watch, like, after McCarthy does a drill or throws or whatever, and then he walks back, and here comes Brosmer, and then here comes Wentz, and that whole thing? JJ still has the cliched hitch in his giddy up. Have you noticed that when he walks, it's just not, it's not a 10 of 10 gait yet because of that ankle?
Yeah, I have seen a little bit of that. And I think there's still things he is getting through with that. I mean, there may be some scar tissue there, and you have to and that may be there for a while. I mean, you may get to a point where everybody says you're good. It's just not going to feel completely normal until that scar tissue gets worked through. So there could be some of that involved. But yes, you can see some of those things yet. And I think it's one of those discussions where everybody's like, when's he going to play? When's he going to play? If you look at this in the context of a career trajectory, I think, which is what I think they're doing, it becomes a little bit of a different question. This whole thing of, is it this week? Is it next week? It's like, no, they're thinking about what is he going to look like when he's 25, 26 years old? And this getting him in a smooth kind of ramping process, not corporate enough to know all the HR lingo, but I think all of that comes into what they are doing and when they're going to put him back out there. And if you're still in that spot where you're not necessarily trusting your mechanics and your gait, planting off that back foot because of it, I think all of that is part of the process that they have to figure out before they put him back.
Now, with Ben via X at Ben Goessling, you can learn about Access Vikings, and you can learn about the podcast and the Access Vikings newsletter. But one of the prevalent things you will see close to atop the page, not pinned, but that's about McCarthy and mechanics and quarterback school and stuff like that. Really cool story we talked about a few weeks ago. But one of the submissions is Vikings are at the bottom of the NFL's toughest division, with a short week and questions to answer.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was like above your story. And I've read the story, but for those who haven't, what questions are there to answer heading into this Chargers game?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think the game story kind of gets into some of those things. That's the story you're referencing. It was, I mean, to me, the way they played defensively on Sunday was a little bit concerning. I mean, getting beat down the field like they did is not something we've seen very much. So, is it questions of, I think there's safeties in spots where Isaiah Rodgers is getting beat downfield. Should he have had safety help on a couple of those? I think the 79-yarder that comes to mind. They're not getting home quite as effectively with the pass rush as I would expect. I do think they miss Andrew Van Ginkel. We'll see if he plays
unbelievable.
This week. It makes a massive difference, the way they look when he's in there versus when he's not. And so I think those things have been factors. And I think, just defensively, that has been a group that buys you a little bit of margin because they're good enough at getting stops. And they did a lot of that on Sunday. I mean, they were able to come back because that group created 3 and outs. And after that first drive, I think the Eagles had like 27 net yards on their next 4 or something like that. So the group is still good at getting stops when it needs them. But the lack of turnovers has been a big difference from last year. And then just getting beat downfield is not something we'd seen. I think they had only given up like 6 plays of 20 yards or more before Sunday all season, which was the fewest in the league. And I think they gave up 5 on Sunday. Right. So kind of an uncharacteristic performance that I think as they go into this one, there's going to be a lot to get figured out.
At a base level, can you just dial all of that into the pass rush? Or potentially the lack thereof, and that goes into the Van Ginkel conversation with the neck. I liked a lot of what I saw from Cashman and his return, those sorts of things. PA hit on something yesterday, just the lack of snaps for Javon Hargrave.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of thinking, okay, well, Jalen Redmond's kind of showing out. You had a lot of Levi Drake Rodriguez in that game Sunday. But in terms of affecting the passer, and Jalen in the vacuum with this Eagles game, I mean, he can just kind of dip on out. He's kind of smooth, actually.
Yeah.
And he buys himself a little time, and there's A.J. Brown uncovered. But to that end, moving forward, getting Van Ginkel back, getting more potentially out of Dallas Turner, the lack of sacks, the lack of turnovers, I feel like that really stems at a base level specifically with that front group.
100%. I think that has a lot to do with everything. I mean, they build front to back. There's no doubt about it. And you've seen them in the way they've gone about it in free agency these last couple of years do that, where it's, let's go get the edge rushers last year, Jonathan Gennard, Andrew Van Ginkel, draft Dallas Turner. This year, it's let's go get Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen. And yes, they've added in the secondary, certainly Isaiah Rodgers, I think was the first guy they agreed with during the legal tampering period. So they addressed some of those things, but the big money, the big investments have been up front. And I think the idea is if you can create enough pass rush, you get the ball thrown underneath, you can rally to the ball, defend, and keep it to short gains. You're not giving up anything long downfield. It's a little bit of the Vic Fangio thing of keep everything in front of you, but they're doing it a different way because they're basically forcing the ball to come out so fast that it doesn't get thrown over your head. So the fact that happened on Sunday, some of that, yes, is Jalen Hurts being able to extend plays. I think the touchdown on the fourth down. He had the ball in his hand for like 7 seconds, and that's the backside of that play. He'd worked the other way, and nothing was open before coming back to A.J. Brown. So when you have him doing that there is some uniqueness to what he does, but they also need to be able to get to the point where quarterbacks say, I've got to get the ball out of my hand, and it can't go downfield. I can't have broken plays because somebody's coming after me. And I think the pass rush helps the secondary a lot, and I think the lack of productivity, at least to the standard that they're used to, has hurt the secondary kind of as a side effect of that.
Is there any Van Ginkel steam? I mean, he was limited with the practice designation yesterday, which teams do for Thursday games. If there had been practice, so-and-so would be limited. He was limited all week last week, then ruled out Friday in front of the Eagles game. And any Van Ginkel steam as to like when?
Well, I asked O'Connell about it on Friday. He sounded more optimistic about the progress, and they've done, a lot of digging on how to treat the neck stuff. And I think, when it's a neck and a player that's had a concussion, you're probably crossing your eyes or crossing your T's, dotting your I's with a lot of things to make sure it's not going to get worse and it's not going to have long-term ramifications. So I think they felt good about a lot of that, and the work he had in practice last week, I think, was a step in the right direction. I don't know if in a short week they'll say, let's go try it. I would think maybe the Lions game makes a little more sense there.
I agree.
But, we'll see today what he does and how they proceed. I think they are moving towards it, but just the short week, I think, makes everything a little harder.
Okay, well, to dovetail off what Nordo asked about that baseline question, then he mentioned Javon Hargrave, where I saw it on Twitter yesterday. I wasn't adding up the snap counts or anything. Somebody tweeted. I verified it.
Yeah.
And it was like Javon Hargrave, 18 snaps. Fewer than Levi Drake Rodriguez. Right. Jalen Redmond has been better than everybody on that defensive line the whole year.
He's been very good.
Against the run, against the pass, and the whole thing.
Yep.
Okay, so you're 6 into it. You still got 11 to turn some things around. However, speaking of the X machine, I saw this morning. I don't know this person, but I follow him on Twitter, Sean Borman. It was at Sean Borman NFL. That's where I saw it. It was a tweet, and I added it up, and he's right. It's in that, and there was some bragging off the not from the team, but a braggadocious or positive situation off the Bears game, where Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, two newbies on whom they're counting, had 13 pressures combined in that Bears game. Okay. Well, in the next 5 games, they have 15 combined. Yeah. Well, how? I mean, and with Hargrave, I'm not getting it with Javon Hargrave. Somebody yesterday was like, well, maybe you can't play him situationally because of this. And I'm like, in my opinion, they signed Javon Hargrave to stop the run.
Yep.
To rush the quarterback and not complain when he gets double teamed so others can, quote, eat, end quote. What do you think?
I think that's right. I mean, he has gotten a lot of attention. He's gotten double teams. Certainly, we've seen that through these few games, but you do want to see more production from him, more plays where you're noticing his impact, even if he's not getting to the quarterback, that he's able to, maybe make a quarterback have to bail a certain way or closes off a lane to step up, where he's a bigger factor in the pass rush than we've seen him be. I do think the lack of impactfulness from him especially has hurt. I mean, Jonathan Allen hasn't gotten there as much. Jonathan Allen, actually, I thought early in that game on Sunday,
he had the first 2 tackles.
Yes, and a really nice play. I think the ball was going away from him, makes a backside play to stop the first one. So he had some moments, but they signed those guys to create more interior pass rush than they've gotten, especially over these last few. And I think that's when you're missing Van Ginkel and you have players that you brought in to help, be another source of pass rush, and it hasn't happened. Yeah, I think that's had an effect.
Well, and when you get an 18, okay, it can be if we were in a room with those making the decision, and we had an hour, and they got to call us. You're an idiot. You don't get it. Look at this, and this before you spout off and talk. Okay, I'd love to have that.
Sure.
Simply, and it has nothing to do with the financial compensation given Javon Hargrave.
Yeah.
When people get paid, that ship has sailed. Now it's productivity, how much you play, is it what you said it would be, stuff like that.
Right, yeah.
So, okay, perhaps we could be told that this is a side to side. This is an edge game. Mm-hmm. Okay. We're working on all this with Barkley outside and the cutbacks and the angles and the holding the edge and everything we heard all week last week, or could be vertical. All right. I don't care. And here's why. Because I've been a fan of Javon Hargraves from afar since he came into the league, and he had a fumble recovery touchdown in his very first season. And I'm like, who is that? Yeah. And I watched him, read up on his story, and I've been a fan of his from afar. Well, now he's here. It's a conscious decision somebody is making to play somebody only 18 plays. Right. Okay. Well, I'm curious to see where it goes this next game. Yeah. And then after that, but 18's a tiny number for somebody of that caliber.
That's very true. And I think Jalen Redmond has played well enough that may change the conversation a little. But when you brought Javon Hargrave in, I think they are expecting to have a guy that's playing a little more than he has. So I have to think it's a two-sided coin here. Some of it's been Redmond playing well. I think some of it probably is Hargrave not being as productive as they want. So, I mean, all of these things, these pieces work together. But yeah, I think through the course of the year, if you're seeing those snap counts continue, it's absolutely fair to point out this was different than what they seemed to expect when they signed him for as much as they did.
Ben Goessling, Star Tribune, StarTribune.com. We'll get into more Vikings-related topics around the corner from Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. This is 9 to noon.
KFAN welcomes Trans-Siberian Orchestra for 2 amazing shows at Target Center December 28th at 3 and 7:30 p.m. Tickets on sale now. Get full show details, including a link to buy tickets. KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
So with these questions that are to be answered into and out of the LA Chargers game, and much more, it seems it's best to find the free access, or to find the free Access Vikings newsletter to stay up to speed with all of this.
Yeah.
And if somebody wanted to find the free Access Vikings newsletter, what's the best way to do it, Mr. Goessling?
Thank you. Yeah, there's been a lot of people that seem like they've been finding it lately, so we appreciate all of the new subscribers we have to the Access Vikings newsletter. You can do that. It's pinned there's a link at the top of my socials. Otherwise, if you just Google Access Vikings newsletter, the sign up is in there. You just drop your email in. It will be there every Friday, typically analysis from me on Fridays, and then we do a post-game edition as well. So this Friday, of course, will be another post-game edition after the Thursday game, and then we'll kind of get back into the normal routine of it. But I typically write an analysis piece, kind of an insider thing every Friday, and then you'll get all of our game coverage kind of delivered to you in one spot every morning after the game.
What does on a short week, does Flores speak during the week?
I would expect all of our access for the week is today. Okay. So I would think if we're getting coordinators, they'll probably be coming off the field.
Okay.
I think.
Well, and here's the reason I ask is that with the strategy to stop or stall the tush push.
Yeah.
The brotherly shove by the Eagles. And the strategy with edge guy Tyler Batty laying on the ground. Did you get any clarity or like what is that supposed to do to help?
Yeah, so we actually wrote about it. I think Emily Leiker talked to him after the game. He basically said the basics of it are low man wins. Okay. I think the Chiefs did this in the Super Bowl with Chris Jones, which, you know, you may need Chris Jones for other things. So Tyler Batty, I think, you know, coming back from that knee injury, it's like, hey, glad your knee's feeling better. Here's what we're thinking for this week. I would have loved to be a fly on the wall for that conversation.
Hey, guys, I'm healthy. What do you guys want me to do? Well, we want you to effectively die under an offensive line.
Multiple 300-pound men to fall on you. And
maybe you step on your wounded knee.
You ever driven over a speed bump? Like, we basically want you to be that.
Wow.
I think some of it was, you get leverage, and it makes it so they can't get a push.
Well, how do you get leverage? Only if people stand on you.
Well, yes, but you're getting leverage from stopping the Eagles from pushing the line back because they're not able to get low enough to move you.
Wow.
So, yeah, I think in the football basics of low man wins, I think it's taking low man wins to an extreme. But, it's... Well, and I think he talked about it in the locker room, and I think it was Blake Cashman that in Emily's story shouted over, he's a certified maniac or something like that, which you kind of have to be like, yeah, let's do it. That sounds great. But that one, it almost worked. It's an interesting thing. We'll see if other teams try it, but you do have to have the right people to say, yeah, I'm good with that.
I don't get it. How Juergens, his head is over the ball.
Yeah.
There's the right guy. I mean, specifically at the beginning of the year when there was all this emphasis on illegal formation, right? So, helmet of the tackle's got to be belt level or closer to where the center's at.
Yeah.
All those flags were thrown initially, and let's just say I doubt that every team has buttoned that entire thing up, but it feels kind of like a short term, like, don't do this, guys, and then they just moved on.
Yeah.
But similar, like, there are serious formation issues that you can see when you get the overhead camera view, and they still are able to do it. So
Eagles?
At first, I'm just thinking, if it's a legal play, who cares? And they just happen to be really good at it. And you know what we can do? We can just keep them out of 3rd and 1.
Right.
Well, in some cases, even 3rd and 2. And the Vikings actually mostly effective in that. But now I saw a couple of camera angles. It's kind of a sham play. It annoys me, and I want it to go away. I don't want to over-legislate the game, but that thing is it's an ugly play, and I hate it.
I used to be like, okay, well, just go stop it if you don't like it. But the more I've seen it, and the more you just kind of think about the mechanics of it, the more I'm with you, the more I'm just kind of like, this is kind of annoying.
Yeah.
It's just like you find a loophole. Yeah, it's a gadget, and if enough teams get annoyed with it, I mean, the Packers tried to stop it.
But why is it a loophole?
Just
it's not.
In the sense that pushing a guy forward, I mean, we've had that conversation over the years of being able to help a guy get positive yardage. I mean, this was the big discussion. I mean, the name goes back 20 years last week to the Bush push in Reggie Bush pushing Matt Leinart, I believe, into the end zone against Notre Dame was when that first came up. And this idea of, can you aid a runner going forward? We've all kind of said this is okay. And I think there's a loophole in the rules with the formation that allows them to do it. But I mean, the Packers they proposed at the owners' meetings last year, let's get rid of this, and it didn't get the votes. I think that got pushed to the meetings that were here in Eagan in May, and owners said, no, we don't have enough momentum to get rid of this. I will be interested to see if that continues to move toward getting rid of that play after this year.
The tush push generally takes 3-ish seconds. Okay. Yeah. I haven't timed it out. I'm guessing here. Do you guys think 3.5 sounds fair?
That sounds
1001, 1002, 1003, maybe a little longer.
Yeah.
Okay. And with the brotherly shove and what the Eagles do, if you watch most of them back, they're all going forward.
Right.
And the outside guys generally head in. Okay? So I've said this for years, and I can't get anybody to tell me it's against the rules or why nobody does it. I don't understand for the life of me. Not in touchdown situations, because all hands on deck. I got somebody on the edge, and your only job is to come around that edge at 100 miles per hour and get Dallas Goedert in the ribs.
Yeah.
And get A.J. Brown in the ribs with your helmet or your shoulder pads. Legal hits. And do it repeatedly. Go ahead and keep running this.
Yeah.
Well, you better take that left tackle or your extra unbalanced guy and get this guy, because his only job is to come around and smack the pusher.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to bury the pusher and hit that sucker so hard, I'm going to either knock your guys out of the game or I'm going to pull you out of this tush push.
And that would maybe be the way.
Nobody does it.
But if that happened enough, I wonder if the NFL would start to say, you know what, we got to stop doing this, because a lot of
helmet in ribs, Dallas done.
Well, I think you would get to a point where the concerns about player safety would get loud enough that they would say, well, you know what, the way that this play has gone, the way it's evolved, I think that would change the conversation. I mean,
but we're going to give you the first down. No, we're giving you the
Right.
You're at the 50. Go ahead and push.
Yeah.
In fact, you're going to get 4 yards out of this.
Yeah,
and lose 3 players.
There's a cost of doing business to that.
Right.
That if that were to happen, I do wonder if GMs, if Howie Roseman would say, you know what, Nick, we need to not run this play as much.
You can't tell me that the pushers, generally Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley, and or A.J. Brown, that they are defenseless players.
Right.
They're not. They're
right.
pushing the guy.
Yeah.
They're in the play.
Yeah.
So it's not, targeting a defenseless player, which maybe it is. And maybe that's why nobody does it.
Yeah.
But now,
it's an interesting thought.
Now all of a sudden, you got to take your edge guys offensively, your outside guys. You got to think about who's coming around to put that helmet into Dallas Goedert's ribs.
Yeah.
And now that's one less guy, one fewer guy. I don't know. It's there has to be a way to make the Eagles pay for what they're doing.
Yeah, it is. You'd have to think that somebody will come up with something. I mean, obviously teams are trying to find new ways to do it when the Vikings say Tyler Batty is going to act as a speed bump / table for people to use as leverage. Yes, people are trying to figure out solutions to this. That could be one that's interesting to see if that ever comes to, if teams decide to do that.
Appreciate you. And, see you in the SoFi Vox box on a Thursday evening when you do pregame with Muss, okay?
If I will check in on the directions of how to get down that half-mile walk from the press box to the radio booth.
Well, just don't get stuck in Amsterdam.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
If we do that, we'll be fine.
And by the way, Mike Mussman is doing a Thursday football feast at Buffalo Wild Wings Savage, where he's doing Vikings Football Sunday. That begins at 5 o'clock, Buffalo Wild Wings Savage. That'll take place on Thursday into the final hour, 9 to noon, after this.